ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PK Clan Tournament Grand Finals. Today, we have the first game in a best of 11 series between Garja and Boneng for, of course, the split, the cash prize split of the prize pool, which is $1,950. A lot is at stake here. In the south of the map, Garja taking the Iroquois in this first game. No surprises, and the first thing he's going to do, well, play that race against time against the Iroquois man for that sweet, sweet XP. Here he is, going to put up a trading post in the center of the map, and that is the first thing he's done. Rushed his Explorer there, hasn't bothered with this coin, hasn't bothered with this other coin, not going to get those treasures because, obviously, for the benefit of my new subscribers, who have subscribed over the course of the Steam sale, which is excellent, and also during my absence, the Iroquois man will give you XP when he passes the trading post, and that, of course, is going to contribute to shipments, and he's going to get that nice 3-settler shipment sooner rather than later, which will help him age up a bit faster. No doubt he'll go back to his base and grab those coin treasures now, but here he's found a 140 food treasure, possibly one of the most influential treasures in the game early on before you've clicked the age up button. Converting that Guardian, an excellent Guardian to convert, going to help him grab some more treasures, do some scouting, and this food, of course, is going to make him age up so much quicker, and Iroquois already age up outrageously quickly due to the age up fast option. So Boneng, his opponent, already at a disadvantage due to this treasure find, and normally you will not be able to get this treasure as the Iroquois because you build this trading site and then that almost takes up a minute of your time, whilst then you do a little bit more scouting, and if you have found the 140 food treasure you have to walk over to it, and more often than not you won't be able to get it up in time before you click the age up button. So the fact that he's got that before he's aged up is going to make this game absolutely ridiculous for him. Well played to him there. We'll switch over to Boneng and see what this guy's up to. He is, of course, in the north of the map, playing Iroquois again. No surprises here, of course. The first game of the Grand Finals, to be expected, but he's also put down a trading site here, and that is also going to get him as XP, but I do not think he rushed to the center of the map. In fact, I'm almost certain, because he's got this guy over here, which is, of course, from that 30 food treasure in his base. The first thing he did, I would imagine, is convert the food treasure guy, get that coyote to do a little bit of scouting for him, whilst he then decides to build the trading post in his base, and doing it that way means he doesn't have to rush to the center, because if you look at the map, well, you start with line of sight to all other native posts and trading posts when you play as a native civilization, and therefore he saw this was closer to his opponent, and thought, you know what, I'm not going to race for that, because I'm only going to walk over there and then have to walk all the way back to this one, and sometimes that happens. So decided to play it safe, was able to use his conversion ability and get that recharging whilst he was, of course, building the trading post. Here, going for a 95 wood treasure, a nice treasure to find there. The 33 settlers have just arrived. We'll switch over to Garja and see what he's up to. Garja, of course, has had his settlers a little bit longer than his opponent, and due to that food, is probably going to be aging up a bit faster. I will check that in just a moment, but let's see what Garja is going to come across. He has a settler treasure to come for. A nice treasure to get that if he can get this. Treasures really being the nice thing he's found here. He's got that 140 food, excellent treasure, and is about to get a settler treasure, I would imagine. He's also come across 70 coin, which isn't perhaps as useful to other civilizations, since, of course, Iroquois' military units do not actually cost coin. However, he could consider building a market now that he has found that coin, and that coin could help him get, of course, the hunting dog's upgrade. Alright, going to do a little bit of creeping here, converting the treasure guardian, and instead of actually walking away from the treasure guardians and, of course, getting them to run back towards the treasure whilst you shoot them, he's actually going to walk towards it, and this could end badly if the explorer isn't able to kill all of these. He is not normally, I was expecting him to perhaps be aging up, and then when you hit up to the next stage, you get a massive hit points boost on your Explorer, and then he therefore will be able to tank this. But it looks like his Explorer is going to go down, and I do not think he did a very good job of creeping there at all, if I do say so myself. That Coyote also going to go down, losing his Explorer, and that is really significant in Iroquois' fight, because the Explorer gives all of your military units a 10% more hit points when he's in kind of that radius, when he's nearby your units. So without that, it's going to be problematic. However, it shouldn't be as big a deal as it sounds, because he will just be able to walk, as you see, it now has 275 hit points due to the fact that he's aged up and he's already got this guy on the way to come collect him, and then he's going to grab this here. But we'll switch over to Boneng, who is actually aged up a fairly decent time. He's not that far behind Garja, so perhaps if Boneng was playing a European civilization, that 140 food disparity, that treasure would have made a more significant kind of difference. But what I'm saying is this Explorer, whilst he's collecting the settler, and that's all great, Boneng is going to be using his units to come and find where the military building is going to be placed, because in an Iroquois mirror, you can almost, well, especially since he saw that he aged up fast, he's going to want to get to find this so that he can siege it down whilst it's in construction. Of course, when a building is being constructed, it takes times 4 damage from any unit attacking it. So these two, whilst they look insignificant, are actually doing crazy amounts of siege damage to this, and this is going to have a significant amount of damage on the war hut before he's even aged, before it even goes up. And at that, he's sending 6 tomahawks as his first home city shipment. This is kind of non-standard Iroquois play. Normally you would expect to see 4 Kanya horsemen because you can get them out so quickly. Here they are from Garja. He's also sending the Iroquois scouting party, so going for mass tomahawks early on, which coincidentally is actually going to work really, really well against what Garja is doing. He sent, of course, 4 Kanya, do some raiding, and here he's coming in, not doing raiding, perhaps trying to kill the explorer, which he knew was nearby, sieging down his war hut. But now these 6 tomahawks have arrived, 5 more, and now they're just going to siege down the war hut, which is already damaged, and there is nothing Garja will be able to do about it. 4 Kanyas are not going to stand up to tomahawks, which of course have multipliers against cavalry, 14 times 3 in hand combat, so he's just not going to be able to fight that, and that war hut is going to go down. This is a really, really big issue for him. 7 Aina being shipped, of course, Aina very, very strong counters to these tomahawks, and if these 5 Aina pop out of the war hut in time before it goes down, he should be okay. It does just in the nick of time there. These Aina, of course, have multipliers versus the tomahawks, and that is perhaps why you do not see Iroquois players going for tomahawks as fast as they often do, especially in an Iroquois mirror. Aina will always make up the bulk of your army because they cost nothing but food and are very, very easily spammable, and their counters, of course, cavalry. When you're playing an Iroquois mirror, the opponent's cavalry will cost wood, and wood is the slowest gathering resource in Age of Empires 3, 100 food and 75 wood for a Kanya horseman. And despite losing that war hut there, I think he's in a reasonable position because these tomahawks are just, in terms of cost efficiency, not going to perform very well against Aina. If he'd managed to bring that kind of trading post, well, the war hut down before the final 5 Aina had popped, he probably would have been fine. And also, if he'd managed to bring it down perhaps before even the shipment of 7 Aina had arrived, then he wouldn't have had to engage that fight at all. He would have brought down the war hut, retreated, and then wait for a 600 wood shipment, something like that, build some Kanya horsemen, and just be alright. But yeah, that is not the case, because as we see here, these Aina coming forward, 8 Aina, followed by the 5 Tomahawks, Iroquois scouting party, of course, that 500 food upgrade. Can 4 Kanya horsemen pop out of the home city as a home city shipment from the war hut, and they're able to make short work of these Aina, really, really close to the war hut. They're a little bit dangerous, but he does have the means to protect them. Of course, the 5 Tomahawks, really strong against cavalry, that Iroquois scouting party, and also the 6 Tomahawks here as a home city shipment. If he had held the guns just a moment and had waited for all of those units to be in one place, he would have been absolutely fine, because he has, what, 11 Tomahawks there? That would deal with 4 Kanya, no problem. And 8 Aina would do fine against his opponent's Tomahawks. So, losing that advantage here, and now, of course, Boneng coming around the back with these Kanyas to try and snipe that war chief there, whilst these Tomahawks, the war hut fire, and now a shipment of 6 Aina, or is it 7 Aina, we'll check in a moment, are just going to take out the remainder of his units. So, going from a very strong position there to actually not being in such a strong position. We'll switch over to Boneng, but before we do, we'll note that he does now have his war hut up and running, and his economy is just set up for Aina productions. We can see nothing but food and a tiny amount of wood coming in. 2 settlers on wood there, just for the houses. But, yeah, that is fair. I guess we'll have to check their economies in a moment, but 6 Aina are on the way now. Of course, nothing but military shipments. I'll discuss what they've kind of decided to do with regards to military shipments here. Boneng coming in to do a little bit of raiding, certainly a good idea. 1 settler down. And now is not going to stay there because, of course, taking shots from a war hut plus a shipment of units which have just arrived in 5. Of course, Aina about to pop there. But we'll switch over to Boneng, see what he's up to. 600 wood now on the way. But certainly, wow, what a few strange churn of events. I think his original plan, right, he gets his explorer to come in with that rifleman and start sieging down this war hut which was here, which is good, and he's following up such fast aggression with the with 5 Tomahawks, the Iroquois scouting party, and his first shipment was 6 Tomahawks, so just going for those kind of units with a lot of siege on them that do well versus, of course, buildings and can bring that down. Not so strong against Aina here, and since he is kind of outmassed, and some of those units are Tomahawks, which will take double damage. Actually, he's in a really bad spot here if Garja notices. Hasn't noticed, fortunately. But if he just decided to go and siege down that war hut, not that he's going to, he has Aina, which aren't particularly strong against with regards to siege damage. But the 600 wood was accidentally shipped here, and that's problematic, because if Garja can control that area, then that's almost game over. Of course, you want to kind of ship the wood to your town. But yeah, those 6 Tomahawks. Ooh, if he I don't know, it just, he managed to bring down the building with those, the Tomahawks, the Iroquois scouting party and the 6 Tomahawks, but it's fairly non-standard to do that. In an Iroquois mirror, you'd expect your opponent to go 4 Kanya Horsemen, as Garja did. Garja, of course, sent 4 Kanya Horsemen, did a little, well, not raiding with them, brought them in initially to kill off the units which were, you know, the war chief, which was sieging down his building, but then would usually move on to then go and kill some settlers. That not happening today. But yeah, because Boneng shipped Tomahawks, that was easily countered by, of course, Aina. And now we're in this position where Boneng is on 18 settlers, hasn't sent any shipments just yet. He has had his shipments so far. I mean, settler shipments. He hasn't sent any settler shipments just yet. His shipments so far have been, of course, we saw 6 Tomahawks is his very first shipment, followed up by, I believe, 7 Aina. 4 Kanya came out and started to beat up those Aina, which were sieging down his war hut. And now he's sent 600 wood, which you imagine he built a corral and is going to start training some, of course, cavalry to deal with his opponent's Aina. His opponent has a lot of Aina here, just absolute masses of them, which are going to be, and the only strong counter is cavalry. Now sending 5 kind of economy settlers to kind of catch up. We'll compare that though to Garja, who hasn't sent. He has 23 settlers here, so actually more than Boneng, and he hasn't even sent any settlers from. So actually, Garja is, you know, still got both of his settler shipments to send in, and is ahead of Boneng with regards to economy. And he's got a stronger military here as well, though actually at the moment he's not going to perform too well against these cavalry. I think maybe Boneng should have held the gun just a moment there. Of course, wanted to get those cavalry into combat with the Aina to slow them down so they can't escape quite as quickly. And then the ranged units at the back would come in and provide covering fire. But if he'd hold the gun there, he'd be able to get all of his units to start attacking at once. And instead actually had the cavalry there for longer. They were there first, and then the rest of his units arrived later. And perhaps if he engaged all at one moment, he'd been able to get more efficiency out of the cavalry since they'd have more covering fire. But yeah, those cavalry are not too good. We'll see if, well, Garja is ahead in terms of economy, and his military is really, really strong now, so all he needs to do is kind of push this advantage. I mean, if Boneng is left long enough, certainly he'll get back into the game, but he's losing settlers here, of course, collecting very close on the front lines, and if that continues to happen, it's not going to go very well for him. Garja is now shipping conservative tactics, which increases military units, well, basically all of your military units, Tomahawks, Aina, and Manlets, by their hit points by both 10% and their attack by 10% as well. So instead of going down the economic route, he's going to, of course, just get these upgrades and just go all in the military and kind of overwhelm his opponent. I think Boneng, however, if Boneng can kind of keep the pressure off for a while and get back into this, he might be able to come back. But it's going to require some work, especially since Garja still has both of his settler shipments to send as well. He can just catch up. I mean, Boneng will probably be even with regards to settlers now, 25, yeah. Garja on 26, so that's fairly even. But you have to remember, Boneng had to spend a 5 settler shipment to achieve that. And, you know, 4 settlers about to arrive. This is 5 settlers just here, collecting on basically the front lines. They're just going to get absolutely slaughtered. This is not the way he needs to be playing if he wants to get back in this from this kind of uphill position that he's already in. There's plenty of wood in his base that he could be collecting trees on, and although you can point out these mistakes and be all high and mighty, but honestly, unfortunate mistake for him there. Perhaps he had the Home City spawn point from the war hut selected on the trees, and they went over to there. But it's just becoming more of an uphill battle for Boneng. Here we see some raiding coming in. I think that is the right thing to do, of course, trying to use the cavalry to your advantage. Try and kind of even out this position. But at the moment, Boneng is fine, providing Garja does not attack him right out. Garja has the capability to do so. And I think Boneng's concern is to how do I keep this pressure off me? If I keep raiding, then I can, well, with these cavalry, for example, he can make Garja's military units just run around the map, and then since they are just walking around the map responding to raids, they won't actually be able to pressure him, and that is one way to keep his opponent off him. With regards to hunts, though, both players fairly. I think since Garja has more military units, this kind of the side of the map which is more open is, you know, obviously still filled with hunts, and I think Garja will have an easier time gathering there. But at the moment, Boneng still has hunts in his base to collect from, so he's by no means out of the game just yet. And as you can see now, Boneng coming in with his military units, and perhaps this is the right decision, of course, to stop Garja from just attacking and pushing the aggression, and keep him moving around the map so that these units aren't really doing anything. but at the same time, it's a bad decision because his army is hugely composed of Aina, which are very, very slow-moving units, of course, compared to Kanya horsemen, and also weak to cavalry as well, and he's just walked himself into a trap here. I mean, a few units to kind of, if you could keep them moving around, that's great, but in this particular instance, he's now going to have to fight here. He cannot escape. He's under town centre fire, up against units which counter his units directly, with a ton of Aina in the back to kind of, which are just going to provide covering fire and absolutely ruin him. Remember, he's also got the conservative tactics upgrade, which is providing all of his units more attack and hit points than Boneng, so he really stood no chance there at all, and that looks like the end of the game. I think for Boneng to get back into it, honestly, he would have needed to just sit in his base and try the best he could to boom, but it would have been so hard. I mean, he just had, like, he lost almost 5 settlers on the trees there, he lost some to raids, he was just behind anyway. Perhaps he decided, I know, I'll push out now because the longer I leave it, I'm just going to get economically further behind. I think he probably thought Garja probably was in a stronger economic position by that point. So it was either just wait in my base and slowly lose, or push out now and perhaps somehow miraculously Garja doesn't have military units and I can kind of overwhelm or perhaps get a massive, but it's just in the end he knew it was probably over, and that is the end of the first game, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back tomorrow with the next game in this best of 11 series. My name has been Interjection. I will see you next time.